Yes.
Okay, well, welcome to everybody to the 27th of April full council, Steyning Parish Council full meeting. As you probably just heard, the chair is absent this evening, so I'm chairing the meeting in her place. John, would you like to read the GDPR notice for me, please?
I certainly will, Chair. Yes, please note that the Council is, and members of the public and individual councillors could be, making audio or video recordings of this meeting. The Council's recordings will be uploaded to a cloud-based website of record and will be available indefinitely to the general public. By participating at the meeting, including by merely logging into it, you consent to this. If you do not consent to these terms, you should please not log into the meeting. Chair.
Thank you. Could you tell us the apologies for absence, please, John?
Yes, newly updated. Thank you, Chair. Apologies received from Councillor Norcross, Councillor Goldsmith, Councillor Rudkin, and Councillor Trundle should be with us, but is liable to be a little bit delayed.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Do we have any declarations of interest from the agenda items tonight from anybody?
Nope.
No, lovely. Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions? Oh, Deborah.
Sorry, just when it comes to the minutes, I'd like to, the acceptance of the minutes, I'd like to make a statement, okay?
Okay, is that of the full parish council meeting?
Minutes of previous meetings. No, it's for the community committee.
Okay,
when it's being, thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. We haven't received any questions in writing, have we, John?
No, we haven't received any in advance, Chair.
Okay, are there any questions from the floor? If you'd like to switch your video on and your audio. Do I see any hands going up?
Yes, we've got two, Chair, one from Trevor, one from Rosemary.
Okay, shall I take ladies first? Rosemary, would you like to ask your question?
We can't hear you, Rosemary.
Okay, we seem to have lost Rosemary, but we've got another Rosemary's iPad here. Anyway, shall we go with Trevor? And oh, hang on, Rosemary, you're still muted.
Should we go with Trevor for now, Chair?
Yes, let's go with Trevor. Trevor, would you like to?
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Fine. It's Trevor Cree. I'd like to make a representation. I should like to express my very serious concern about the new schedule of meetings that have been introduced by the Steyning Parish Council. A very large number of council meetings have been removed from the annual meeting schedule to the extent that transacting council business efficiently will be unworkable in the future. Councillors were elected to address, debate, and make decisions on behalf of the community that they serve, and that will not be possible if community, finance and general purposes and full council meetings are not held on a regular monthly basis. For example, in May, August, October and December 2021, no effective full council decisions can be made on the many important items of business that will need to be addressed at that time. And therefore that will result in delay after delay, as evidenced by the very long list of outstanding items on the agenda tonight. It is the role of elected councillors to make decisions on behalf of the community, and it is the role of the SPC officers to implement those decisions. Open and transparent public meetings are fundamental to our democracy, and the council is undermining resident trust when so many discussions formerly held in public are now to be held behind closed doors. The council should be aiming to provide the gold standard of service to the community and not be aiming for the bronze standard as implemented by certain other parish councils. I would therefore request that the SPC leadership reconsiders the meeting schedule prior to the annual parish council meeting to be held on Monday, 17th of May 2021, and reinstates all of the currently deleted meetings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trevor. We will take on board your comments. Steve?
Yeah, point of order, please. I'd just like to make a reply to Mr. Cree. Well, actually, a question. I'd like him to tell us, he's just told everyone his opinion that discussions that were previously held in public will now be held behind closed doors. Now, that is news to me. So if he'd like to enlighten us on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, well, I would be very happy to do that. Basically, when you delete full council meetings from May is a annual meeting, so business can't be discussed. October is deleted, December is deleted. So you go 2 months without a full parish council meeting. And what is happening at the moment is those discussions which should be taking place openly and transparently are discussed behind closed doors in working parties or working groups. So it's, and also, for example, the personnel committee discussed things like lanyards in confidential session and the meeting schedule in confidential session. That was in the past. So there is so much business which should be done in the open. And the fact is, this is not actually helping John the clerk or Hazel the deputy clerk at all. It just builds up problems. So much is happening out of public view, and that is not acceptable.
Sorry, Chair, can you just indulge me with just a very brief comment? I think, I would like to state, my own view. Nothing is going on. No decisions are being made behind closed doors that were previously made in public. That was not a correct statement. Not a fair statement. Not correct. I think the fact is that the council is trying a different approach by combining meetings in the interests of efficiency. I know that you, Mr. Cree, don't agree with that, but I think you should indulge the council and let us move ahead with it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and we'll change it. Sorry, Chair. I rather spoke over you there.
I'm quite happy for that. I think the proof of the pudding, as they say, and I think it's already been shown. But I'll leave my point there. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, Trevor, I'd just like to add, in addition to Steve, that I don't think there are decisions being taken behind closed doors. Everything is open and transparent. So yeah, I'm very sad that you felt you had to make that statement. Thank you. John?
I think maybe Sarah was before me.
Okay,
Chair.
Sarah.
I was just going to say, of course, with working party meetings, if something which would have been discussed in a committee with the public there is actually dealt with in a working party, SBC don't have to actually produce minutes of the working party meetings. So that is a way that the residents are actually not so aware of how the council came to a working party decision.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Although working parties do report back to full council. John?
But not in such detail, and it's not minuted.
John?
Yes, if I may address one or two points there, hopefully to assist. Working parties, there are most of the time notes taken, as has been mentioned, and really there are recommendations made then to committee meetings which are in the public session. So if there's any further discussion both for and against, then that is an opportunity and it is given full rein in a public session. If I may address a point or two from Trevor, hopefully again for clarity, there are in this year's schedule of meetings, 6 meetings less than the previous year. That's 2 full council meetings less. However, because of an additional planning meeting every month, EOMs, and the fact that Personnel Committee has met on a number of occasions, we've actually completed more public meetings this year than last year. And last year, the calendar year, was a record for us. We convene more public meetings than any other council currently in the Horsham district. And we were trying to address that. That was the reason for it. And as I've stated before, it isn't always that you can complete, that you need meetings to effectively deal with issues. It's just one of the elements that you can bring towards it, and then finally complete your objective assessment and make a decision. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. Tim.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, what's been stated tonight has made it sound as if the working parties have come as a result of the changes that we made to the schedule of meetings. Is absolutely not true. It's a complete fallacy. We've had working parties and working groups for years, absolutely for years. Most of those have notes made from them, and those working parties come to the committees or to the council, whoever appoints them, to make recommendations. So I think this has just been a complete red herring, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, Rosemary, have we got you on audio now? No, we haven't.
You're muted, Rosemary.
Bottom left of your screen, Rosemary. Maybe if you hover your mouse over the bottom left.
John, if he's on an iPad, it might be in the top right-hand corner.
Oh, sorry, well spotted, Simon. Yeah.
In the meantime, it looks like.
Unmute.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see you, Phil.
Yeah. Hi. Sorry to be such an idiot. Anyway, I'm really ringing. I mean, I think you'll find some of your colleagues might well know about a lot of this, but we have a problem. We have a problem where I live. I live in Charlton Street. Sorry, there's something going on here with my phone. Here we go. I have a problem where we live.
Rosemary.
Yeah.
Sorry, if you can possibly turn off your other device. We're getting an echo because the other device is on.
There we are.
Thank you.
That's better.
Yeah, I just picked it up to do it. Yeah, sorry to be such a fool. Anyway, here we go. I live in Charlton Street. I came in to see you, John, the other day, didn't I? And Hazel. We have a bit of a problem. It's quite new, a bit persistent, and we feel that we've really got to get sorted out here. We have a group of boys, 2 groups of lads who have colonised one of the benches. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
They've colonised one of the benches and smoking a lot of weed. That's the older group. We can't get them to move from the bench. The trouble is that it immediately backs onto our back walls, which are only about 1 metre high. It's creating a great deal of mess, lots of weed being smoked, so therefore all the bits of paper that accumulate, or the rubbish they have, the beer, the bottles and everything. We've tried every approach, can't get them to move. Some of them are nice, some of them treat me as though I'm invisible completely, they can't hear me. There's another group, slightly younger, who are far more intimidating, very, very rude. They've upset quite a few of my neighbours. You have to understand we're all female and it's very difficult. You can imagine the sort of show-offy sort of nonsense from young lads. Various people have been involved, and we've all sort of independently come to the same conclusion that if only the bench could be moved to a place in the park where it's not immediately affecting the properties of the you know, the houses immediately adjacent, the boys would move too. We don't want the bench destroyed. It was dedicated, and we understand that that's slightly difficult, but I'm sure the people that dedicated the bench to the park would probably be appalled if they could see what was happening to the bench. I mean, you get boys spitting. One of them's definitely a dealer. I actually watch him. Other boys come up and go away again.
Yeah.
The wardens know these lads. The police community officer knows these lads. We all feel that if you could possibly consider moving that bench just to another bit of the great big park we have here, it might solve the problem. What do you think?
Okay, thank you, Rosemary. Well, I think we need to take to have people's views on that. Sarah, what
Do
would
me
you
a favour.
I have great sympathy for Rosemary and the neighbours. I'm going back possibly, oh sorry, my papers are just gone, possibly going back about 20 years, and there was a similar problem with the dealers, and again, it didn't matter what authority you went to, it was very difficult.
Yeah, I feel as though I'm running around a bit with the ball.
Yeah, I do agree with you that where you have a bench, you actually do get the dealers. I mean, I'll just declare I'm part of the Steyning Community Orchard group, which area up the top is now a really lovely area. It's well used by people, but we don't get the dealer. But previously, I can remember when women, and particularly young mums with children, would not walk through that top orchard area because it was just full of, there was a bench there and it was absolutely full of, as you say, dealers. There were drunks who would sleep there and the bench was removed and the problem went with it. But really, I do feel that by moving a bench again, to a certain degree, we're just moving the problem elsewhere, and really we should have some sort of authority who can actually, I mean, you've actually witnessed them dealing, which is just totally unacceptable, because I mean, sadly our police station at Steyning, I believe, is actually going to be completely closed down. To be frank, we've never really had much police presence at all from the police station, despite it's, you know, adjacent to the MPF. I mean, in the past, we've had CCTV.
Sorry, can I maybe move on a little bit and just consider the question about moving the bench?
That's because,
I don't know whether Mike, you want to make a comment, or John. Mike, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, well, we're aware of the problem. We've been in touch with Rosemary and visited her. Local PCSO has also done so. Yeah, I mean, obviously there is a problem. We are dealing with these two groups. One group, we've had issues over a longer period, which is will be coming to in my report anyway. There's a newer, younger generation who we have only just started to know. We don't think that they're from around here. So far, our response with them has been quite positive, and there haven't been any other further issues. But I understand Rosemary's concern, because the bench, she's got a wall, a low wall, and it's right there against the wall. So I understand also, Sarah, you said that the problem, you know, if by moving the bench, you could also move the problem, but it would be a different type of problem. So if that bench was moved to another area in the park, say by the bowls club where the hedgerow is or something like that, you may still get ASB where the benches are. You won't get the same problem, because the problem Rosemary has is antisocial behaviour against the person. So it's against the resident that lives there. So without the bench there, you won't have that problem. You may have other problems, but you won't have a problem with one particular resident getting these kind of issues. And then the other antisocial behaviour problems can be dealt with.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. John, I wonder, John, should we put this on onto the communities to debate this?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I think entirely the correct move. It's worth discussion, because this doesn't automatically go away, and it's a more than reasonable request given the situation. So if that's okay with you, Rosemary, we can further discuss this.
Yes, I mean, that's what I'm
afterwards.
putting it forward for discussing
Okay.
it, because it's not just us involved. It's not just us. It's the rest of the people who use the park as well. I mean, we've had to resort to clearing up the rubbish rather than having it just hanging around there. And it does put people off sitting there because they don't want to sit in a sea of rubbish on that particular spot.
Okay.
So I do understand that moving it, yes, you could say it's the same problem, but it won't be quite so invasive. It's incredibly invasive at the moment. I won't sit in that end of the garden if I'm going to be surrounded by a cloud of marijuana smoke. I mean, a lot of my friends might say, well, lucky for you, but it's not a smell I particularly enjoy. And you feel very exposed,
Well, thank you very much, Rosemary. We'll put that on the community's agenda and we'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Simon, did you want to make a quick point?
Yes, yes, Chair. I think this kind of reiterates the need as well to put CCTV back on the radar for our projects. Because although CCTV will not stop this, what it will do is it will capture the evidence that the police can then use to prosecute this and then take the problem away. I mean, the police, it's all very well and good the police being next door, but unless they catch them in the act, there's not a lot they can do.
Okay, well, I think we might have that somewhere on a project list, Simon. So thanks for reminding me about that. Can I just ask, before I come back to you, Sarah, can I just ask Phil Bell, did you want to ask a question?
If I may, please, Chair, can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. It's just a quick one. First, the previous lady, I think the answer, Simon's right. CCTV, give the police a document that they can see and take action on. The other thing I'd like to say, as a past chairman of the council, I noticed that Roger Potter, chairman of Bramber Parish Council, is retiring and standing down at the next election. I'd like to think that Steyning Parish Council can send a letter of thanks to Roger for all the work he's done. He supported Steyning admirably. He's always stood up for the Steyning, Bramber and Beeding coordination approach. And I just think his efforts are very worthy of a thank you from us.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we'll make sure we do that.
Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry. Sarah, are you going to talk about something different?
I was just going to say that previously, when we had the picnic bench in the children's fenced off play area, the CCTV camera was directly pointed at that picnic bench. We still had the dealers, they still left all their paraphernalia from drug dealing. It didn't make any difference at all.
Okay, all right, thank you, Sarah. John? Oh.
Yes, thank you. There are always ways and means, so we will explore those, I think, as we've said at the community committee. So
okay,
thank you.
I'll leave you to it then.
Thank you very much, Rosemary.
Okay.
Thank you, Rosemary. And could I,
Also,
Michael Bishop-Powell, can I just ask you to put yourself on mute, because I'm getting some audio from you now and again. Thank you. John.
Well done, Chair. Yes, a couple of points. Mr. Bowell mentioned about our colleague, our former chair at Bramber, moving on. We received an email today that I will send out to you with some further details on what the suggestion is that we might want to do as a council to. So I'll send that out and maybe we can move on from there. Also, just a very quick one. Sarah mentioned that there was a rumour going about regards the police station closing down. I had heard of a rumour. I have asked the police if they can give me, finer details. I hadn't heard it, officially in any respect. I don't know if Michael knows anymore, but certainly if there was anything, then I'd certainly let you know, and I would certainly let the community know. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. Oh, Mike. I
was just going to say, we haven't heard anything. Obviously, it's been refurbished. It's probably busier than ever in my time being here over the last 8-9 years. But who knows what's in the pipeline? Good to say.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, can we move on now to item number 4, minutes of the previous meeting? This is to agree the draft minutes of the meetings held on the 15th of February, the 15th of March EOM and the 25th of March EOM 2021 as a true and fair record. Can we, John?
Hi, thank you, Chair. Just before we move on to possibly agree or otherwise, just want to alert you to one date error on all of them. It was just the year. I've actually put down 2020 on all of them, and obviously it ought to be 2021. So if we were to agree them, could it all be subject to that year being amended, please?
Yeah, thank you, John. Thank you.
Chris, can I?
Yes, Hazel.
Can we just ask Phil if he can turn his video off, please? Sorry, Phil. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair.
Can we take them all together, or has anybody got an issue with any of those minutes? Okay. Well, can I propose that we accept all 3 minutes subject to the year date being corrected? Oh, Tim.
You're there, Tim.
Sorry, Chair. My finger was wavering a bit. No, I was just going to second it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's great. Okay. All those in favour?
That's 5-4.
Okay. All those against? Any abstentions? I can see 1, 2.
Two abstain.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, on to matters arising. John, will you take us through those, please?
Yes, certainly will, Chair. Thank you. Obviously, a number of these items are either actioned or we will be discussing later on in the meeting. So if I just deal with the ongoing ones that might need further information. So 5.2, question raised by a resident regards neighbourhood plan to be dealt with at a later meeting. This isn't that later meeting. We're going to be coming back to that from the local resident, if I may. That's why that's ongoing. SPC land registered to be brought back to full council subject to processing of non-registered land. Now, we've been in discussion with the solicitors for some time. Necessary documents are being prepared for submission by our solicitors. Once these submitted, there could be some reasonably long delay as they are registered. But as we're taken through the process, I can keep you informed. Clearly, what we wanted to do was, complete all land registration and really get to the bottom of this, but it does take some time. Anyway, we'll keep you informed on that one.
Okay.
5.4, this was Joanna on behalf of the council presenting the Millennium Awards in person to the Upper Beeding Hub. Joanna, of course, still not necessarily able to do that because of COVID restrictions. As soon as they're eased, then that can go ahead. Sorry, Simon's hand is up, Chair.
Yeah, Simon.
Sorry, Chair, I was just going to say, I also hear that Debbie is also moving on as well from the hub. So it might be worth writing a letter just to thank her as well for the support that she's given to the residents of Steyning.
Yep.
I'm sure we can do that. Thank you.
Chair, I'd be happy to do that on the council's behalf. As you know, and I put a message out that she was moving on. As you know, she's been wonderful not only for Upper Beeding community but certainly Steyning, as the hub has taken on that sort of joint role, which is why, of course, she won the Millennium Award this last year. So more than happy to do that. Thank you, Simon.
Yeah.
5.5, internal auditor appointment details will be brought back to full council. Yes, we'll discuss this when there is sufficient room on the agenda. That wasn't this evening, if I may. 5.14, SPC publishes on its website all code of conduct decision notices where sections recommended. Sorry, is that?
Actually, you've lost me. What point were you
So
on?
we're on
That's not the right one,
5.1.
sorry.
5.6.
5.7. Councillor Lloyd, to see if a consultation response could be sent in late, clerk to distribute to HDC a response. I did put actions down on the agenda by mistake. That's still ongoing, Chair. Sorry about that.
Can I come in there, Chair? Sorry.
Yep.
I had actually spoken to or emailed HDC about this, but I actually couldn't find an email, so I don't know whether I spoke to them or not, but I chased them up today and haven't had a response, so I apologise. I had actually let this slip my mind, but I'm pretty sure that we'd been told that we were too late, and therefore that was the end of it. But I have sent an email today to ask them, or ask Adam, as to whether we can still be considered or not. So I apologise. It did slip my mind.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Tim. John.
So in addition to that, just to remind everyone that we did unofficially make a statement regarding that matter. It's just that we didn't have time to, make a decision and put it through council. So thank you. Just in terms of 5.15, correspondence from two councillors for the clerk's office going via SPC chairman, that's ongoing. This, just to remind everyone, gets reviewed by the personnel committee when that meets. That's why that's ongoing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right, we move on to...
Chair, could I just make a suggestion that, as we've been rather a long time on questions, could we perhaps, I don't know if David's here.
I don't think he is, no.
But if David's not here, could we skip to 8 and get on with the business of the council, come back to the others? It's coming up to election time, so there's not a lot that we can say. So
I know.
Unless
Tim,
Bob,
I'm just really aware that Bob.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if Bob,
so patient.
Yes, no, if Bob would like to say something, of course.
Yeah. Yes, Bob, do. Can you unmute? Lovely.
Okay, yes, I'll just find my notes. Yes, thank you. Yes, I've had some long waits to give a report, so it makes a change this evening. And as it happens, the past month has been fairly quiet as it's been the Easter break, and we sort of started up again today with a planning meeting, and we've got a full council meeting tomorrow. Having said that, there have been significant undercurrents really regarding the Horsham District draft local plan. This was due to come before the council for approval and Regulation 19 submission this month. But an independent planning inspector advised that we took on some additional consultation, and that will delay the final decision until at least June. Now, for the council meeting tomorrow, Mike Croker from Bramber Beading had come up with the idea that we should submit a motion proposing a moratorium for at least a year on the local plan until the effects of the current pandemic on housing and employment could be better assessed. However, for various reasons, this was not considered to be appropriate in the run-up to the local elections, and it was withdrawn. There has been quite a reaction to the plan, and councillors have been inundated with emails regarding significant development proposals, principally at Buck Barn, West Grinstead, and to a lesser extent, Adversane and other sites. And this has been, some of it's been quite well organised and fueled by online petition websites. There's also some disquiet about proposals on the west of Ifield, and there's also the Rookwood site, which plans to have a plan to replace the golf course there with a housing estate, or a part of it at least with a housing estate, and that's in close proximity to the Warnham Nature Reserve. What's creating the problem really is that the council is stuck between a rock and a hard place, effectively. We are legally required to produce a plan, and in order to produce that plan, we have to demonstrate that we can generate enough housing to fulfill a government target. The target we have been set is frankly excessive, and this has resulted in planning proposals having to be incorporated in the plan, which involve large estates, large new towns effectively, on greenfield sites. And the one that is producing perhaps the strongest response is at Buckbarn, very close to to one of our major national resources, the Knepp estate, and there's been a tremendous campaign against that. So we really await a decision on how we're going to proceed from here. It's all very much ongoing at the moment, and it'll be interesting to see what reaction the council finally comes up with to deal with this, how it gets through the planning inspectorate. So that's the main issue that's been going on. We've got a council meeting tomorrow with quite a full agenda, but I'll perhaps leave that for next time.
Okay.
If anybody's got any questions, I'd be grateful. I'd be happy to answer.
Are there any questions for Bob? No. Oh, Bob, thank you so much for that. And I'm sorry in the past you've had to wait so long, but thank you very much.
Well, thank you for putting me on the agenda earlier on. It's very kind of you. I shall be ducking out shortly because I want to go to the Steyning Greening Group meeting, which is actually on downstairs at the moment. My wife's watching.
I'm missing that one as well. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay.
All right. Right. Yes, I would like to move on, as Tim suggested, to point number 8 now, and we can come back to our reports if we've got time. All right. So, item number 8, governance matters. 8.1 is to discuss and agree the SPC position with regards to SALC and WASALC. And I believe there is a briefing paper. 8.1, and I think Hazel would quite like to speak to this.
Yes,
am I right?
Not meaning to like to speak to it, but I will speak to it. I went to the latest WASALC meeting that was for clerks. There were 57 parish councils represented at that meeting. They have created or appointed a new board, and the new chairman is Douglas Denham. The briefing paper says most of what's going on really. They've created a new board, and they are working with the people that we used to work with at SALC. They're working with Trevor Lego, Anna Beams and Mark Mulberry. They have reduced their bill for this year by 10%. They're going to hopefully reduce training sessions for us all. They've created a new website, wasalc.co.uk. They're going to do regular newsletters and provide regular information. We still get all the information from NELC through WASELC. They've also arranged for discounted solicitor fees, and there will be a certain limit of free legal advice for councils. The other options that were all given prior to this meeting have been superseded. There were talks of going to Hampshire Elk, but that's all been superseded at this meeting. So that's where we stand at the moment with WASELC.
Thank you, Hazel. Now, I believe we have to decide upon our position with joining West Sussex Association of Local Councils. Is that right, John? Yeah.
Yes, what we do need to establish is that we confirm that we want to affiliate with WASELC. As Hazel puts it, there isn't really another option that is available to us. Yes, you know, there's Hampshire organisation, but we are far removed from them in distance terms. Not a lot. All of these training exercises will be virtual. In fact, there are many we consider won't be after a period of time. In any case, what WASELC are offering is very similar to what we've had before, which we have agreed and has worked with us. So we've got no reason to believe that it shouldn't work for us this time. And it's at a discounted rate. Also, I don't know if anyone's had an opportunity to go on the website, but I've found that the website that they've put forward now is actually really very good. So I think there's been progression already in terms of the service that they're offering. So yes, I would strongly recommend that we agree to affiliate to them.
Okay, thank you, John. I'll go to Steve first, then Simon. Steve.
Thank you, Chair. You say there were 57 parish councils represented there, Hazel. Do we know how many parish councils in total fall under or would fall under WASELC?
At the previous meetings, I think there were 65 attending, and all of them at those other meetings were unhappy with the situation that was before this one, but all those that were attending this one were all in favour of what was being said.
Do you know, do they have any other source of income, or is it purely these annual fees?
I think it is all of our annual fees. I mean, that's the only thing that they would be getting there.
Yeah, okay. I just wonder how I suppose they charge out for most of their legal advice. I'm just wondering how they, well, frankly, how they make ends meet.
John.
Okay, no, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank
No,
you.
thank you, Chair. Through you, just to mention to Steve, training exercises, they do tend to charge, albeit relatively small amounts, but there are a number of people involved with those. So, and there are regular training exercises. So certainly when SALC were operating and dealing with training, that was where they got a large percentage of their income from. So it would come to that.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, Simon.
I think given the services we got from SALC, I think it's almost a no-brainer, especially since we seem to have a positive buy-in from both our deputy clerk and clerk. I think it would be foolish not to be part of this. So I mean, I'd like to propose that, yes, we move forward as a member of WASELC.
Thank you, Simon. Is there a seconder for that? Steve. Thank you. Okay, all those in favour?
That's unanimous. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. Okay, we move on to 8.2 to discuss and agree that the Working Practices Working Party consider policies, including an updated health and safety policy and a new SPC policy for marking the death of the sovereign or other senior national figure. I did have a briefing note on that.
Chair, may I help?
Yes, please. I've just
Okay.
laid my paper.
To give you that moment or two to find them. Yes, it was just to elaborate really that leading up to our annual full parish meeting, where we look upon the representation of both committee and outside bodies. We also look at policies and to agree those. So very much worth our while really to revisit all the policies that are working practices, working party meeting if we can, so that we can get through those and make recommendations to full council from that, so that we're not having to engage in a lot of conversation to an otherwise very heavy agenda, should we put it that way, at that annual parish meeting. So that's why I was proposing it. I did include mentioning the fact that we would need to revisit health and safety. I do want to upgrade that. I think most of our other policies we spent some considerable time on last year and came to an agreement. So I'd like to think that those would be pretty much good to go, given that we're still in the same council. But also there is that additional new SBC policy that I'd prefer that we didn't discuss this evening anyway, because really it's not one for open session, but that still we may be able to gain recommendation from that working party. So if we could maybe agree that we need to meet and that we could make those recommendations, Chair.
Okay, thank you, John. Tim.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just feel we're getting very close now to the election. So I know you want to try and tie this up before the annual meeting, but we will have 2 new councillors on board, and they may well have things to contribute to this. So I don't see a reason why we can't leave it. If there's anything that has to be done to the policies, we can make that statement at the council meeting. We can say to agree the health and safety policies subject to it going to the working practices group. Just a thought, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Deborah.
Just a thought. I mean, between the election and our next council meeting, could we not have a working party? Are we banned from everything between the two? We could have a working party, perhaps.
Yeah, we could do.
But Tim, wasn't your point that if we have it before the next meeting, we won't have the benefit of the 2 new councillors?
Well, I just feel that as they're coming on board, we've got a couple of new councillors, and we're so close to the election. Sorry, so close to what would have been the election date, but we're so close to the first council meeting. I just feel we should do it after that, but that's a personal view, Chair.
Okay, I'll just go to John first, Deborah, and come back to you. John.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I take on board your comments there, Tim. Might proffer a solution, because obviously our new councillors come on board when they sign the documents on the 10th of May. We could circulate all of, well, they would actually gain all of the policies as part of the induction pack that we talk about, and that perhaps if we agree, we could hold the working practices working party after the 10th, so they have sufficient time to actually feed in any particular comments to that group. It doesn't, just because there are members of the working practices group doesn't mean that all councillors can't feed in their thoughts before that. In fact, it's better that they do so. Would that help, do you think, give the new councillors opportunity?
I think that sounds very reasonable, John. Deborah, and then I'll come to Steve.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, I do understand that actually it would be a good idea if our certainly 2 new councillors were at the meeting. I was just hoping it could be before the 17th. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Steve.
Thanks, Chair. Can I just understand, is this policy, the draft policy for the death of a sovereign and so on, has this been flowed down to us in this form, or where has it come from, is my question?
These are not.
But yes, I think John can answer better than I can.
Through you, Chair. Yes, this particular policy is a policy not necessarily, like I say, discussed in open session because of the nature of it. It's very unique in that way. That's not to say that other councils don't have one. The thing being that we do not. And actually, you know, having experienced what we experienced a few weeks back, it was clear that maybe it might be better that we did have something to cover us should an unexpected occurrence occurred, and that's obviously for senior national figures.
Yeah. May I just, Chair, may I just explain the reason for asking the question is I would have thought, okay, maybe lessons have been learned at the last the Duke of Edinburgh funeral. I'm just concerned that things that in the death of the sovereign, for example, that actually policies and protocol would actually be flowed down to us, and we may find ourselves spending a lot of time putting a policy in place and then finding out that our policy doesn't necessarily match what's been flowed down. So I suppose, I know this has got to be discussed by the working party, but I think my question is a little more fundamental as to, do we really need this policy, or is this something that would actually be flowed down?
Thanks, Steve. Who shall I take first, Tim or John? Tim?
Well, yes. Thank you, Chair. I just don't feel that these are important to be done before the next council meeting, but perhaps John can correct me. We've got plenty of time to sort this out. I don't even think we should spend that much time speaking about it this evening. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, John.
Actually, I think Hazel was before me.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see Hazel.
That's all right. I was just going to say that these policies are being advised by SLCC and WASELC now. They realised that it was a bit of a mess up before, so they have put these things on their website.
Okay.
Thanks, Hazel. Yeah, I'm wondering quite what the urgency is, although we don't want to be caught without anything if somebody of importance does die. John.
Well, one would hope and assume that obviously that's not the case and it wouldn't be so super urgent. Clearly, no, it was, as I say, it was hoping just really to gain recommendation from our working practices before we then agreed and adopted policies at our annual parish meeting. Like I say, it's not an absolute essential, but it can work that way to alleviate time for our annual parish meeting. That's all I'm saying.
Can we agree now to convene in the future a working practices group to review the policies and especially the health and safety?
Chair, at the first meeting of the council, we will elect members to the committees. So that change. So the best thing is to do it after the annual meeting, in my view. Thank you, Chair.
If that's a proposal from Tim, Chair, I'd be happy to second it.
Well, it was just that surely if we agree to have a meeting, we can still agree who's going to be on the working practices at a later date. Or am I wrong in?
No, you can do that if you want to, Chair, but yeah.
John, I'll take your advice. What do you think we should do?
Well, I think right now, because we've had a proposal and a seconder, we ought to follow through on that, Chair, if that's okay.
Okay, so can we then agree to convene at some stage a working practices working party to review and make recommendations on policies, including the health and safety policy, and consider a new one to mark the death of on the policy for marking the death of a sovereign or other national figure? Okay, can I propose that? Steve, are you happy still to?
Sorry, Chair, we've already got a proposal, so.
I think that was different to Tim's proposal.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right.
Sorry,
I quite, if Steve is agreeable, I'm quite happy to withdraw my proposal and we can go with yours. I'm not okay. That fussed, but I just think that we should leave it until after the meeting. But if you want to suggest that now, it's fine. So I will withdraw my proposal if Steve is willing to.
Yep. Okay.
Withdraw it. Okay.
Okay, so we'll say we'll convene a meeting after the May meeting.
Yep.
with that suit?
Yeah, I'll second that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so all those in favour?
Unanimous, thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Thank you, Tim and Steve. Okay, we now go to 8.3, report from the clerk on the SBC meeting format changes regarding adherence to the latest COVID regulations.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just a short report, shortish, if I may. So due to regulations made under the Section 78 of the Coronavirus Act 2020, local authorities in England have had the express powers to hold public meetings virtually, as you know. But these regulations will not apply to meetings on or after May the 7th. The government's roadmap proposes that organised indoor meetings are permitted from 17th of May, subject to COVID secure guidelines and capacity rules in terms of the rooms that these are due to be held, if indeed we're going to hold them. Next full council meeting happily occurs on this very evening, and we propose therefore to use the main hall in the Steyning Centre to hold this annual meeting on the 17th of May, while ensuring all mitigation procedures and processes are carried out to make it COVID secure. We have a legal obligation to ensure that the members of the public can access most of our meetings, of course, but we also want to ensure that they are equally safe, and therefore we propose to give as much notice to the public as possible and give option to send in questions ahead of the meeting, as we have done before, while also providing limited but not too limiting access to the meeting itself for those who still want to attend. What I'm really saying is that there will be ample opportunity should people want to attend that meeting. We haven't done a trial setup to see exactly how many that will be, so I don't really want to be drawn on numbers, but there should be ample numbers. We've also considered conducting our annual meeting prior to the 7th of May. That's obviously been an option, therefore doing so remotely, but this does not allow for our newest councillors, of course, to take part, as they are not due to sign the papers making them councillors until the 10th of May. There are three, in addition to this, there are 3 committee meetings happening before the 21st of June, and that date is at which point the restrictions ease further. We propose to hold these 3 committee meetings in the Saxon room instead of the committee rooms. Again, therefore allowing for all social distancing regimen to be maintained and to ensure we remain COVID safe. Fortunately, therefore, we do not have to cancel any meetings nor alter our current schedule due to these COVID restrictions and the government's roadmap for reopening. So I wanted to make sure that you're all aware of that, and if you agree to that. Finally, there is the matter of the community EOM, which I will propose we convene on the 6th of May. So this can still be done virtually. That's my report, Chair.
Okay, thank you, John. Simon, I'll come to you then, Tim.
To say, with meetings now coming back to face, there's no reason why we can't. We as councillors have to attend that meeting face to face. There's no reason why the public cannot, if they feel a worry, still stream the meeting to the public via the internet like I've done in the past. I mean, I've streamed it out to Facebook, and we can actually, rather than use Facebook, use Zoom. We have the technology, we have the facilities to do it. We can be sat there in the Steyning Centre, and the public can still attend if they so require, just as they are today.
Okay, thank you, Simon. John, would you like to reply? Oh.
Yes, thank you, Simon. I agree. It's entirely possible. It's not been tried yet successfully because we have had face-to-face meetings with a Zoom element involved during the last year, albeit socially distanced when we were able, and they weren't entirely successful because of the ability for sound. But I do take on board that we can work on that. I just didn't want to necessarily say that that's definitely what we were going to do, seeing as we haven't had a trial of that. But I would be keen to move forward on that, and we'll be looking for assistance from those who are willing and able, if I put it that way.
Okay, thanks, John.
Come back on that. It's, I mean, effectively, we only need the sound for them to ask a question on the floor. After that, they just need to hear us.
Okay, thanks, Simon. Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Firstly, I would like to see, and I'm only speaking for myself, I would like to see a full report or briefing on what the plans are for the live meetings. So what protocols are being put in place, when open windows, those sorts of things, so that we can be sure that they are COVID safe. That's point one. Point two is that Horsham they're following the same line, but they do feel that there's a possibility that this will change, that it may be that the government will bring in emergency legislation to combine live and streamed meetings. So that's a possibility that's being talked about. And thirdly, just to pick up on what Simon's been saying, we should be more than capable of streaming. But what Horsham are doing is they're only allowing written questions, because it is the questions, the interaction between somebody on a live stream and the rest of us in the live meeting. There is a problem with that, as we found before. So as far as I'm aware, and I will come back to if it changes, but Horsham are looking at only having written questions, and that's something that we could look at temporarily until such time as we can relax it a little bit more. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tim. John.
Yes, thank you, through you, Chair. Yeah, happy to complete risk assessment and get that out there to all councillors, just to ease concerns. Also, I would like to complete that setup in the main hall to see what we can effectively do. I've had a message from Michael. Can I just suggest, through you, Chair, that maybe we just listen to what Michael's got to say?
Yeah, of course. Mike.
Oh, thank you. John, did you mean in the report or what I messaged you?
I just know that you messaged me.
Yes, we just had a call from a resident. It's regarding situation in Chankton House, and we need to witness some behaviour. It's been ongoing. It's happening now. Do you mind? I know you're obviously, one of us here did a report. Do you mind if we duck out to deal with the situation?
Don't worry, we have your report,
Sorry.
Michael.
Go.
Okay.
Yeah, go.
Apologise.
No
Thank
problem.
you. Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Okay, had we John, yes, go on.
Also, if I may, Chair, yes, Tim mentions the possibility of emergency government action, or another paper. We may we considered that perhaps that was a must, but it's not happened yet, and we can't imagine necessarily that it will happen. So obviously we have to make plans to ensure that we're ready to go, assuming nothing happens. It is quite strange, really, in terms of the timing, but they appear determined to stick to the roadmap. So yeah, we look at the .gov.uk sites on a regular basis just to check any changes, and we would be informed, obviously, if there are changes. But currently, this is where we are at.
Okay, thank you. Hazel.
Did we not have a note from Luke Hall MP to say they met on the 21st of April and they've decided that they won't budge on their legislation, and we have to meet face to face after the 17th of May. They won't allow us to do virtual meetings anymore.
Okay, yes, Tim.
Sorry, yes, Chair. Yes, I'm aware of that report or letter, but Horsham seem quite adamant that is still in the melting pot. So I think, to be honest, it's a moving feast. So I think we, as John says, is we go with our plan, we follow the roadmap, and if things change in the meantime, whether they change, I just think that we should try to set up a protocol, as I said, about whether we accept written questions only and take up Simon's suggestion to record the meetings and to live stream them.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Okay, can we move on now to 8.4, and that's an update from the clerk on the May elections.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yes, a briefing note this time. On the 6th of May, Horsham are holding elections for West Sussex County Councillors, as we know, and the position of the Police and Crime Commissioner for Sussex. And the Steyning Centre is being used as a polling station, as you might well know, from 6:30 AM to 10 PM on that day. That's for general information. The returning officer will be putting in place COVID-safe mitigation procedures, and we will ensure it remains COVID-safe for the nursery, who will also be using the centre on this day. In terms of the parish council election, the returning officer confirmed we had an uncontested election, which means that we will have 2 new councillors joining us in May. Great news. These being Ian Alexander and Richard Bell. Just final note, if we wanted to consider a co-option to fill the final councillor position, and there was a candidate proposed, then we can consider this option from the 10th of May. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. Anybody, any questions from that update? If not, perhaps, John, we can go on to the next point, 8.5, the end of year finances update.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you. So again, just a brief note. I did send out end of year finance figures again. Obviously, F&GP committee members will have seen these, and as you know, we discussed them last Thursday evening, but I did want to just present them again so that full council were aware, and obviously to publicise further. So just the report, I reported in detail last week our present provisional end of year figures. That's provisional end of year figures. This item is on the agenda as an opportunity to merely inform a wider audience that we will be showing a small surplus at the year end. Main reasons we've been able to turn around a possible large deficit on the year are that we managed to obtain, and that's obviously because of the COVID restrictions, etc. We managed to obtain via 3 successful grant applications £24,000 from HDC to help cover the substantial loss of income from having to close or restrict opening of the Steyning Centre throughout the last COVID year. Also, we made significant savings on the staffing costs, and we also maintained a prudent use of funds, budgeting funds, regarding general expenditure throughout the year, knowing that otherwise we were likely to go into deficit. So that's just an overview. Once we have all the appropriate invoices in, accruals completed, we complete year end with our budgeting software service plus internal audit, then that will give us a very definite full picture. And then we're going to be returning to, as we had discussed earlier, our projects list to look at priorities and move forward this year. So that's just an overview for you.
Thank you, John. Tim.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, John, we had agreed through you, Chair, if I may, John, we had agreed that the F&GP that we'd present this in a new format. So can we, for the end of year, particularly for, I don't know if we're going to be discussing this at the APM, but if we are, then it should be put into a format, particularly for the new councillors, that I think most of them will understand if they've been in business. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, as Tim rightly says, as chair of F&GP, he would be rightly saying it. Yes, we did agree to a new format. It's just that obviously that was last Thursday and this is Tuesday and papers were going out, etc., etc. So we had a bit of a crossover. But yes, certainly for when we come back to this item, it will be in a slightly new format. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions on the end of year finances? Okay. All right, thank you. Move on to item 10.
Actually, Chair, if I may, sorry,
Yeah.
just a quick one. I think here John should be singled out. He's done extremely well in getting in these loans that we've had from HTC, which takes quite a bit of time and effort. So I think he should be congratulated by the council because he's taken us from a very small surplus this year into a larger one, which will enable us hopefully to do some very good projects for the community. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you, Tim. No, yeah, I'd like to endorse that, John. You work very hard on the finances, and yourself and Hazel have done very well to get the grants that you've done. Yes, John.
Sorry, Hazel, I left you out of that. I apologise.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Yes, I was going to say myself and Hazel worked quite hard on this, and I would say for this particular thing, Hazel worked harder than I did. So, but you know, I really appreciate that. Thank you, Tim.
Well, in that case, Chair, I take it back about John, and I pass my comments on about Hazel.
Now I'm hurt.
All right, good. Well, at least we're not in the dire position we could have been in.
Absolutely not.
And for that, we're very grateful. Okay, I think we move on now, yes, to item 10 and
item 9, Chair.
Item 9, Warden's report. Yes, forgotten the Warden's report now that Mike's gone. We've received the last 3 months of their reports, so hopefully you've read them all. I don't know if you've got any questions that we can feed back to them. Has anybody picked anything up? I can see that the Chanctonbury disturbance that Mike's gone off to features on at least 2 of their reports, and it's the usual things of drink and drug problems and dog fouling. So I don't think there's been a great deal of change in what they've been reporting. Okay. So if there aren't, John.
So I was just going to say, the PCSO presence, certainly at the Steyning Centre, and certainly I would say working together with the wardens has been certainly of benefit in the last few months. They are working more closely together. We see them together quite a lot. This is a move forward, I think, certainly in terms of attempting to deal with the 2 local groups that have been mentioned before, although it's not necessarily all to do with them, but it's just pleasing to see that is working more in harmony than maybe it had done before, because there simply weren't bodies available. I just wanted to say that, even though it's in Mike and Paul's absence.
Okay, thank you, John. Yeah, no, that's good to remember and to note. Okay, so now we'll move on to item 10, projects update. 10.1 is the proposed 20 mph Steyning speed limit questionnaire. And I think John was going to talk to that for me.
Thank you, I will. Yes, me again, sorry. So Jeff Barnard from the group has been very good in supplying up to the minute updates for us. I did put on some figures on the supporting papers, but we've got new figures for you. I just think the feedback, the number of responses is incredible, actually. But we've now had 1,199, or as of last night, we had 1,199 responses. Currently 64% in favour, 31% against. 18% of those have come back in hard copy, the paper version, and 82% of that feedback has been online, which I think is really quite interesting as well for when we go for future consultations. Their focus this week is at schools. They're campaigning in schools, and a note from Jeff. Obviously the closing date response is 30th of April. So that was really just a message to for everyone to get responses back as soon as possible within those dates, if you wouldn't mind. And finally, then just when all responses in and they're collated. Now that obviously is going to take some time because a number of people are writing comments. They will come back to full council and report to us, as you might imagine. So this is just that update. I look forward to that, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, Steve.
Thanks. I don't know if you're able to take any questions on that at the moment, John. But if you are, I responded to this questionnaire and certainly am in favour of this. But I haven't seen anything yet as to the costs involved and who will be paying that. I don't know, traffic control orders, I think, if I remember rightly from David Barling, come in at about 12,000. So I think it's just something that we perhaps should be aware of, that what are the costs likely to be if we implement this, and who's going to pay for it? Is that all on us, or don't we know yet?
Yes, John, can you answer that?
Yes, through you, Chair. Well, I haven't been necessarily part of the group, but in initial discussions, and Tim, I'm sure, will back me on this one, we looked at addressing the costs via Section 106 monies that are pretty much ring-fenced for highways developments. And, this is something that we've not been able to access before because it's ring-fenced for highways developments and we haven't had any. So we would hope that we can address with some, possibly all of our expenses. It seems to me that that's the intention, certainly, via this fund.
Thank you, John. Tim.
Yeah, I think there may be a small cost coming to Steyning, but certainly not a large one. There are some legal fees that we have to pay, which may or may not be covered entirely by any of the S106 monies. But this is an ideal project for S106 because it's on infrastructure. What I wanted to say, Chair, if I may, is just really again to thank Jeff, Ian and Dean for all the hard work they put into this. It's been a huge success, I have to say, much better than I ever thought. I thought we'd get maybe 200 or 300 responses. So it's been phenomenal, and that's mostly because of the professional way in which it's been done with the hard copy and the website. So I just wanted that to be made public. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Tim. Yes, it's a shame. Jeff, I think, might have been here tonight had they not had a greening meeting this evening as well. Deborah.
Sorry, I was going to say exactly the same as Tim. I'm sorry about that. But
That's
also
fine.
just to say that we have a working party, a 20 years plenty working party on the 11th of May. So after that, we'll have another report on how things are going.
Lovely.
That's all.
Oh, thank you, Deborah. Okay. I think then we'll move on to 10.2, which is John again. Who's going to talk to that the Pocket Park possible future funding application.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, there's a meeting planned for Thursday afternoon, this Thursday afternoon, 29th, involving members of the Steyning Greening Group, a member of the SPC Climate Change Working Party. That's Simon Alexander. And this was mentioned at the F&GP meeting on the 22nd of April when the supporting paper was initially discussed. There's a hope that there could perhaps be a joint venture between our parish council, Steyning Greening Group, perhaps Steyning for Trees Group, and possibly others. There's an opportunity currently, you see, and just to remind people, for grants from the HDC Climate Fund. But rather than making an application by the 14th of May, which is the current tranche, when the group would not be adequately prepared, assuming there is a group, it was suggested that a letter of intent was written to suggest that the next time funds were available, this group would be putting in an application for a pocket park project or similar, possibly at Chandler's Way. This letter of intent would not necessarily commit the council to such a project, but it would, however, give notice to HDC that there is a plan in place to make an application when funds become available once more. And we believe this will benefit the final application whenever it's due to be finally submitted. And therefore, it's hoped full council will agree to this letter being written this evening, Chair.
Thank you, John. Has anybody got any comments to make about that, Tim?
No, just to say I would I'd be happy to propose that we delegate the clerk to send that letter so that we can at least lodge our position and hopefully put us in line for the grant.
Yes, thank you,
I can
Tim.
second that.
Thanks, Simon. Okay, can we vote on that then?
Yep.
All those in favour?
Unanimous, thank you.
Thank you, John. Now we come to 10.3, the possible removal of the temporary pedestrianisation scheme measures which have actually been removed.
I noticed, Chair, it's actually now in the car park.
Yes, and I've noticed.
Sorry, yes, Chair, I just wondered who actually moved them.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I'm not sure that we know. Do we, John?
Don't. And I did ask our contact at HDC, perhaps if it was done whilst we make up our minds by them, because it's very nicely placed in that area in the car park. But clearly we don't know. I don't know who's done it from our side, and they were asking us the same question at the same time. Did we know? So they clearly didn't. So it's been, removed unofficially, shall we say. However, what we still need to agree on this evening is whether we want it completely removed officially, and then obviously for the barriers and whatever to be taken away, or if we don't, then obviously it would need to be replaced in the manner in which it was put in the first place. I mean, clearly I would suggest it was a well-intentioned scheme, but in actual fact didn't necessarily work, I would suggest, in the way that it was proposed. What our contact at HDC has said is that, if we were looking for something more longer term, in other words, it was something that was going to last, then we ought to perhaps pursue that through West Sussex. And if we wanted to agree to remove this, then it can be done, as I put out in an email to councillors. It could be reversed in within 3 days. So that's what I need to say.
Thank you, John. So if we agreed, we need to write a letter to ask them to remove it, HDC, do we?
All right. Through you, Chair. Yes, I can email providing we've agreed at full council that we want to do that. I've got your backing, then certainly I can email saying that we have agreed that we want it removed as soon as possible.
Okay, Sarah.
I emailed in and did say that I thought it should be removed as soon as possible. It just didn't work. It wasn't as we'd expected, and it came too late. Things had moved on by the time it was actually still installed. But I would say, if we do agree tonight that we don't want it back and we do want to keep it uninstalled, Can we find out just how long it is going to be parked in the car park?
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Tim?
It'll be 3 days if we notify HTC. It'll take them that time to remove it, so we have to let them know. I think we should try and take some steps to find out, Chair, who actually moved it, because it could have been quite a dangerous thing and they shouldn't have done it. You know, we've had other things go, like waste bins and those sorts of things have disappeared from our high street in the past. It's appalling behaviour and should never happen. But anyway, no, it was a poorly executed scheme. I complained to Horsham about it. Wasn't what I thought we were going to get. Very disappointing, I have to say. So, and nobody seemed to be using it. So, but on the other hand, I felt that if COVID was carrying on, which we seem to be now, to be coming to the end of it, then it was possibly worth keeping it going. But anyway, it's up to council.
Thank you, Tim. I don't quite know what we can do about trying to find out who did it. Anyway.
It's about CCTV then, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Simon?
I say, given the public outcry in the scheme, and I've also had complaints myself about the scheme, I think I would like to propose to have it removed. Get it moved as quick as possible. Yes, it was great intentions, but it just wasn't what was expected. So yeah, my proposal would be we remove it straight away.
Okay, Simon, just before I ask for a seconder, Gary, you've got your hand up.
I was just going to say, whoever removed it left the 2 signs outside near the opticians and Mamma Mia.
Mm.
They left
That's what I mean. I think Gary's right. I mean, and they shouldn't be there. That somebody could have tripped over them, and
yeah.
So are they still there? Are they still there, the signs?
Well, I passed them in the car, so I didn't stop, but I haven't checked. I'll go up tomorrow morning and see if they're still there. If they are, I'll get them moved.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Steve?
I'm happy to. Well, before I second Simon's motion, I'll just make a slight amendment, if I may. I'd like to state, I'd like the motion to be that we formally request the removal of the equipment, but that we also, and I don't know how we do this, but we also make it publicly known that the unauthorized removal of this equipment was potentially a very dangerous act, and won't be tolerated. I think that it's just an unauthorized removal is a potentially very dangerous act. I think that's my amendment.
Yeah, yes, it could have been dangerous to pedestrians.
Could be, yep.
Okay.
Steve, so yeah, if Steve wants to second it with that amendment.
You're happy with that?
Yep.
Okay. John, have you got that? Have you got that
Yes.
vaguely written down? Deborah?
Yes. Sorry, I mean, could we just add to that statement that it wasn't what we expected at all, because that wasn't the plan they originally gave us. And because I think, it may seem strange that to some people that, it was put up and now we're having it taken away. But I mean, really, it's because it doesn't work as they've done it. And it certainly wasn't like the scheme they originally gave to us.
We could, thank you, Deborah, we could include that it didn't seem to be particularly helpful.
Would you allow me just to try and draw so
Yes,
if we say that, so if I propose that we write with immediate effect to Horsham District Council to have the equipment removed, because we did not feel it represented or was representative of the original scheme, full stop, and that we also make it publicly known that the unauthorized removal of equipment like this can potentially be extremely dangerous and it should be avoided.
I'll second that.
Do we need to say that it was actually unlawfully removed?
Yeah, I think we should do. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm going to put that in now.
Oh, stick it in anywhere. I'm sure John can put was.
The make it known that the unauthorized removal of equipment, such as happened in this case, is potentially extremely dangerous and should be avoided.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve.
Was potentially dangerous and should have been avoided.
Yeah.
I think, John, have you got there?
Yes, we've got several iterations of that, but I will.
You can
I will make it legible. Yes, I'm sure we know what we're going to be voting on. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was unauthorized removal of some of the words in my statement.
Yes, you're probably right.
Okay, so
Could be dangerous, Steve.
so who's proposed this now? Is it Steve or Simon?
Steve proposed, I'll second.
Your second. Okay, thank you, Simon. So all those in favour?
Unanimous, thank you.
Lovely. Okay. Now we come to 10.4, the Steyning Society request. I don't know, shall I speak to this, John? Would you like a rest?
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you, Chair.
This was Tony Struthers of the Steyning Society came to us, and he came to a planning meeting and informed us there was no local heritage list for buildings that are important in the historical local context, but not actually listed, or not nationally important enough to be included on the list, statutory list. And the Steyning Society setting up a working party in consultation with Horshams Conservation Area Officer. And they want to put together a list of such buildings in Steyning. And they'd like to invite a Steyning Parish councillor to sit on the assessment panel once they have got their list of buildings together to be considered. So basically he was asking if any of us would be interested in joining this assessment team, which wouldn't be for a couple of months' time, probably in June or later in the summer, to help them with this. And I don't know whether this is another thing that should be, we should consider once the new councillors have joined us. Simon.
I was about to say exactly the same, Chair. Maybe this would be better waiting until we've got the two new councillors on board and giving them the opportunity to be part of this group.
Okay, thanks, Simon. Tim.
Chair, I thought our conservation document that we had listed all of our listed buildings.
It does, but these are buildings which aren't on that list.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
but which are considered to be sort of important to.
Okay. Yeah. No, I understand.
Yeah. Okay. So let's, John.
Thank you. I was just going to suggest what we could agree is that there ought to be a representative tonight, so that Steyning Society are aware, but that we agree that we don't vote that representative on until we've had the annual parish meeting, at which point, you know, we can give it full consideration. Perhaps.
Yep.
I think that's a good idea, John. Yeah. Okay. So can that? Are you allowed to produce a motion, John?
No.
Okay.
I'll propose it, John, if someone wants to second.
All right. Simon, would you just like to say it again, just so that John's got it, but although he probably has it already?
That we propose that we will have a councillor on the group, but we will defer assigning which councillor it will be until after or during the annual parish council meeting.
Thank you, Simon. Okay, anybody like second it, Steve? Yeah, thank you.
Second, yeah.
Okay, are those in favour?
Unanimous, thank you.
Lovely, thank you, John. Just before we move on to the next point, I overlooked one of the briefing papers we had with the Steyning Wardens reports, where our Steyning Wardens helped to deliver more than 200 food parcels to people during the lockdown. And I just think we should give them a sort of a vote of thanks.
Yeah,
I
agree.
For their hard work. They do a great job, you know, on many counts, and they can't be all places everywhere, but they do a fabulous job. So just wanted to record that.
Chair, should we send again an official letter from John? Perhaps we could propose that we delegate John to send a letter of thanks to them for their community spirit.
Yeah, and particularly during lockdown and for all they did then. Yes, that would be great. I'll second that. So all those in favour?
Unanimous, thank you. Happy to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, quick point of order, because we did miss items 7.2 to 7.10 earlier. So I'm not sure whether we're going back to those or not. But if we're not intending to go back, we really ought to just vote that we're going to skip them before we forget.
Shall we quickly go back? Can we do that? Can we get through them quite quickly, do you think?
Yeah, well, I haven't got much to say, so yeah.
Okay, let's do that then. Thanks, Steve. Let's do that. So Tim, you're on for HDC update.
I have nothing really much to add to what Councillor Bob Platt said. The danger for us at the moment is with this toing and froing with the local plan, is that we at the moment are vulnerable to development because we don't have a 5-year land supply. So the longer we leave it, the more in danger we are. And so it's very important that this local plan gets put to bed as soon as possible. But as you can appreciate, some of these strategic sites are extremely, what's the word? Oh, my brain's gone. Let's just say that there's a lot of councillors who are very concerned about them, and that's causing a lot of issues within the council.
Okay.
So, but apart from that, no, it's been quiet. So 7.2, I haven't got anything to add, and the HALC meeting is on Thursday, if I remember correctly. So I'll report back at the next meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Tim. 7.4 is myself. We've already spoken about Debbie Wood leaving, and that will be a great loss, and we're sending her a letter. So I'll find out who it will be that I will, myself and Deborah will sort of liaise with. The PPG update, the medical practice have just sent us an update, which I think we'll put on the website, won't we, John?
Yes.
So I don't need to talk to it in detail, but they have been finding it very challenging to provide a mixture of telephone consultations and face-to-face appointments, but also some video consultations and text consultations and email consultations. So they've been working very hard. It is important. They want us to know that they have, for all of us, an up-to-date mobile phone number. So that's something to remember. They will be removing the marquee from outside the Steyning Health Centre. They'll be opening up the waiting rooms with social distancing and limiting footfall to the surgery. The latest government guidance, which came in on the 12th of April, it stresses the need for clinician triage prior to any face-to-face appointments. The nurses are working really hard for factoring in blood tests for people that need them. Vaccination programme going well. 57% of Steyning patients have now had their first vaccination, and Henfield are concentrating at the moment on second vaccinations for people. A little bit of good news that they are expanding their GP numbers. 2 new salaried doctors who will hopefully start in the summer, so that's good news. And also Dr. Rainbow is stepping down as senior partner, although he's carrying on as a GP. And Dr. Holdaway will take over the role as the senior partner. So I think that's it from me. So now we go on to Councillors Alexander and Lloyd, update on Warden steering group. I don't know.
There's not much to report. We haven't had a steering group.
Okay. So then it's joint parishes cemetery committee.
Yes, yeah. So there hasn't been a meeting since our last meeting, but I will actually be attending a face-to-face meeting tomorrow in the cemetery outdoors.
Okay.
I originally assumed that it would be at midnight by candlelight, but apparently it's at 6:30. So I should be able to give you an update at the next meeting.
Thank you, Steve. Climate change emergency working party. So that's either Steve or Simon.
We kind of covered that earlier on in the meeting, Chair, on the basis that we're looking at this pocket park. Other than that, the climate change working party have nothing to report into the meeting.
Oh, well, this is going nice and quickly. There's an update on the LAT. John, yes, you've got
Yes,
your
if I may, thank you. And I'm glad we had the conversation earlier so that you bring that up. Actually, 7.8, I mistakenly put the Warden steering group to update on when it should have been the LAT representative, which is Simon, to update, but I know that there has been no meeting. The reason, by the way, I've put all of these representations on a full council meeting is just to prove that we are aware and can update, but that there has been no meetings, obviously, because of COVID, and it's possibly just worthwhile getting the message across that it's not that we're ignoring stuff, it's just that there have been not a lot of meetings to report. So that's why they're on there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. Okay. Joint Parishes Youth Committee, is it the same?
Yeah. There is some update on here. There is actually a meeting planned for the 19th of May. Now, I am hopeful that in the next council meeting, which is before the 19th of May, we will be able to elect somebody else onto the youth committee, because currently at the moment I cannot attend it because it's a committee meeting. But in my absence, I'm hoping someone else will be on the committee that will be able to attend.
Yeah, thank you, Simon.
Chair, sorry.
Yep.
Sorry, just briefly. I was informed that I believe our service providers have won an award. Now, I haven't managed to find out what that is, but it's always comforting to know that sort of thing. Certainly myself or Simon can report more on that when we know a little bit more, but they are professional, a very professional organisation, so I'm very pleased that perhaps that's been the case. Anyway, I will email that out to everyone once I know a little bit more.
Oh, that's good news. Thank you, John. And the South Downs National Park again.
Back to me again.
Yeah.
There is an update on this as well. There is a South Downs National Park Authority Parish workshop being held on the 15th of June. I'm intending to attend this, as I don't know yet whether Joanna will attend it, but they're inviting 2 members of the council to attend.
Okay.
So they've done these before, so I'm told. We have a presentation by the South Downs National Park officers, followed by a Q&A session.
Yeah, Simon, actually I went to one before the lockdowns happened. They're very interesting, actually, and very, very well presented. So yeah, okay. Lovely. So I think we can move to the soft sands now. Am I right? Yeah. And I think John was going to talk to the briefing paper.
Thank you, Chair, if I may. I think it's worthwhile, maybe not speaking, reading all of this, but most of it, because it's a reasonably good update for everyone, and there is a number of residents really interested in this. So The working party that was held on the 20th of April first discussed the outcome of the August 2020 hearings and the way the examiner had handled them and the nature and content of his subsequent report. It was thought that our presentation was professional and robust. And again, because he's here in the audience, so thank you to Mr. Cree for his big part in that. And that the examiner had not always satisfactorily dealt with the issues that we raised, nor effectively or objectively was he able to ensure there was a robust argument in support of the case for the commercial operator to proceed to planning stage. Other than it seemed to suggest that further and stronger levels of mitigation ought to be employed in certain respects, and especially when considering potential yield, soil quality and amenity. These are just some of the items effectively on the agenda that we discussed. Those present considered the letter and documents from West Sussex County Council and South Downs National Park Authority dated the 1st of April that I'd sent out. Within the letter was the request to those stakeholders whom considered an application for a High Court action if they felt aggrieved by the soft sand review and West Sussex County Council Joint Minerals Action Plan to make that application before the 6th of May. That's why we held the working party, and that's why we're discussing it this evening. Because I have the 2 recommendations for this council to think about, maybe to propose and agree. They were determined by the working party recommendation to this council. First, that SPC agree not to make an application to the High Court, as it would be an inappropriate use of time, effort, resources and finance to do so. Rather, that the clerk responds to the letter saying that no challenge will be made by SPC at this stage, and obviously get that off before the 6th of May. Okay. And the second proposal is that second recommendation is that SPC is best to wait to make a possible challenge to points contained within the document if and when a planning application is submitted by the commercial operator to undertake a quarry excavation project at the Ham Farm site. In the meantime, Council agrees that the working party continue to look at gaining technical advice and expertise from a suitable planning consultancy or similar. In other words, we want to be prepared if we possibly can. To effectively enable this, the working party should compile an outline brief of points, mostly likely to be successfully questioned, to be agreed by SPC, and so that it is possible to gain a realistic estimate as to what it could cost to successfully challenge a planning application in this instance. In other words, we're at the stage where if we go to planning application, we're going to need a professional working on behalf of the Steyning residents, but that professional is going to need paying, and what we do need to understand is what the financial commitment could be, and if it's to be followed through, then we might need, monies from elsewhere to help us. We might need to get the word out to residents. What we don't want is to be given a timeline when we've got to put this all together in a matter of weeks, because we'll possibly be unsuccessful in doing that. So we do want to be prepared, and that's why we've put forward that second recommendation from the working party, Chair.
Okay, thank you, John. Tim.
I don't quite know what to say with this. I just feel there's thousands of pounds, maybe tens of thousands of pounds coming up on this. And I'm very concerned that the council is getting involved in this, to this depth. So I don't quite know what to say. I mean, it's a project which will affect a small number of houses around Steyning. There will be increased traffic movements, of course, along the A283. But I'm just concerned that we're going to be spending money on a project that really doesn't necessarily affect a huge number of the people within Steyning. this is a personal feeling, so I'm not saying this is what we should be doing, but I'm just really concerned when you start going along this route, you're looking at a great deal of money. And here we are just coming out of COVID. We've come out on the right side, fortunately at the moment anyway, with our end of year figures. And we've got projects that we really need to do on behalf of the community. You know, and again, we'll be spending money on legal fees or consultancy fees. I just very concerned about that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tim. John.
Yes, this is the point, obviously, Tim. It is crucial time, and we don't want necessarily to commit to something that we can't follow through on. Clearly, historically, there's a strength of feeling against this going in place by a minority of the residents. One would assume. I wasn't there the last time that this was mainly discussed, but obviously we represent all the residents. What we are suggesting in that recommendation, though, is merely to write a brief and to go to a professional consultancy to gain some sort of quote. So this doesn't, as I say, this doesn't commit us financially, but what it does do is give us a better indication as to what we could be getting ourselves into, so that we can discuss that more in more clarity. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. I mean, there is the question of the increased traffic movement on the 283, and that would affect everybody. And it's quite a dangerous road with people driving far too fast on it. But I take your point, Tim, about the cost. Deborah.
Yes, well, so I'm on the working party for this, as I was the only councillor represented at our last working party on it. But Raina Alston from the partnership is on it, and she's very concerned about the impact on tourism, which is her particular niche, because, you know, lorries going along, as you say, at a fast speed, full of sand or whatever they're going to fill it up with coming back on the journeys. You know, it will be landfill, and so there will be dual purpose lorries, you know, going backwards and forwards. I think I would like to say that I mean, I know this is a recommendation, but I would like that we agree, the first one, that we will not make an application to the High Court, but that we take the recommendation that we do investigate, but without committing ourselves to any monetary outlay, and see all the various ramifications that we might have to face.
Yes, thank you, Deborah. Simon.
If everyone wants to propose that, I'm happy to second that. I mean, from my point of view, it will affect us all, because if you go for a walk on the Downs, this is going to create quite a scar. You know, any one of us that walks the Downs will see this. And it's not like the cable that came through for the wind turbines where they've made good. This is going to be an open site for a period of time, a prolonged period of time. You know, it could take them 10 years, 20 years to take the sand out. This isn't something that's here today, gone tomorrow. This could leave quite a mess. I mean, if Deborah wanted to propose that, yeah, I mean, in agreement, we don't go to the High Court yet, but we should be looking at getting quotes, getting prices in as to what it could cost us if we do want to fight this.
Okay, thank you, Simon. And Sarah.
I actually I disagree with Councillor Lloyd. I do think it isn't just a couple of houses that are going to be affected. I do think it is going to be the whole town, and particularly tourism. However, I do agree with Councillor Lloyd that I am very concerned at how much this could actually end up costing SBC. It's all very well going to somebody and saying, you know, can you give us an idea how much this is actually going to cost? But we know with things like the neighbourhood plan, how it costs so much more money than we're ever initially thinking. And I think the main thing is, on what actual grounds do we think that we're going to actually be able to fight it? I mean, I mean, there's no point in saying, well, we'll take it to the High Court if we actually don't think we've got a very good chance of actually winning. And from what I've read of it, it looks as though, much as we don't want it, I don't truly believe that we are going to have sufficient grounds to actually prevent this happening.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm not sure who was first, with Steve or Tim or Deborah.
No, Steve was first.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it's easy to say that, oh, it's a few houses, but actually I agree with other councillors that say this will affect all of us in Steyning and the surrounding area. Dust, dirt, it's an eyesore, the traffic. I think it's going to affect us all. I'm quite astounded that it's actually has got through, given the anomalies about core samples and so on that, as far as I could see, were never really uncovered. But my question, or first of all, in answer to Sarah's, just to build on Sarah's point about, you know, we don't really have a case. I think surely the reason for getting advice in the first instance is to ask and to find out whether we've got a realistic case. So I would certainly be in favour of looking for some limited funds to seek advice on that. But my question, and I apologise if I've not read the report in enough detail, but was there anything in there about, we're all talking about the period of extraction as being the issue, but what's the plans for this after the extraction is complete? Because, you know, is this going to be left empty? Is it going to be a landfill? Is it going to be a water park? That's a massive issue for our community, and if it's not stated at the moment, that's a huge risk.
Tim, did you?
Well, Deborah may well answer that, but I can tell you that it will be within the contract that they have to reinstate the land. But I understand there have been other quarries around the county and other counties which are still look like a quarry rather than being reinstated. But it may be that the contractor will actually put it back to how it was. But no, my concern is that if we could go along this path, we are giving false hope to people. I think we have to decide whether we're going to go along this route or whether we're not. I don't mind if we want to just go and get some outline advice, but again, this is not going to come cheap, and we do have other things that we should be doing. So I just feel we need to be careful about how we approach it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tim. Deborah.
Yes. Am I on? Yes.
Yeah.
So we do have a consultant who is with us, giving us advice for free. I mean, it's out of the kindness of his heart, and he would help us compile the outline of the points most likely to be successfully questioned. I think that what we need to do is to go down that line, and then once we know the points that we might be successful on, I mean, there are several. What we really need is a red one red point, and the inspector was very reticent to actually say, you know, this is a red score. And also he said, or didn't say, everything will be done at planning. So all during our questions of what the soil is like, how much sand is going to be extracted, how they're going to, you know, make funds or whatever to ameliorate the neighbours, I mean, who are really, really close, and what they're going to do about the A283, because it is right next door to the 283. They're you know, instead of giving us chapter and verse, they are waiting until planning. And so it really is, you know, a wait and see. But I think we need to be prepared, not necessarily, even if we decide not to go down the route of paying for, you know, advice or a lot of money for advice, but actually, you know, when it comes to planning, we've already put together a strong case for planning at planning level.
Thank you, Deborah. Simon.
One thing to consider. I mean, if we obviously at the moment, I'm not suggesting we go down the heavy financial route. I think we need advice. We need to have costs on tap so that we know what it could cost. But just put it on the back burner here. But if we do have to go to the High Court and it becomes costly, we don't have to fight this in isolation. This is going to affect Washington, Wiston, Ashurst, Bramber, us, potentially even Upper Beeding. All of these communities, all of these parishes are all going to be affected. The throughput of traffic is going to increase in all of those parishes. The dirt, the dust, you know, these are all local parishes that are all going to be affected. Now combined, we are Little Steyning, but combined, we're quite a large mass. There's a lot that we could get for support.
Thank you, Simon. I wonder, should we take the first recommendation that I think Simon might have proposed that we, or Deborah might have proposed that we agree not to make an application to the High Court, and rather that the clerk responds to the letter saying no challenge will be made.
At this stage.
At this stage, yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, so Deborah, was that you proposing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And Simon seconding. So all those in favour?
That's unanimous, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And what to do about the second recommendation? I mean,
I'd like to propose it, Chair. I'd like to propose that we do get costs and know what's available, whether there is a case to fight.
Do we need to put a ceiling on the cost of this advice? Deborah first.
Well, I don't think we need to put a cost on it at the moment because we haven't actually got a briefing paper or anything like that. So we've got no idea. I think we need to have the working party with our consultant, with some other councillors as well. I mean, it could easily be, you know, councillors who are not yet councillors, if you see what I mean, who join us, and or other councillors, present councillors. And then we look at that, and then when we've done that, we come back to parish council and say, this is what we've, you know, our brief. Now what do you think we need to do? So it's all written down there. The working party continue to look at gaining technical advice and expertise, but it doesn't say we're actually going to spend any money yet.
Okay, John, you had your hand up first, I think.
Thank you. Yes, Deborah pretty much said it. It's just to emphasize and to be accurate about this. This doesn't mean that we would be spending anything at this point in time. It's just so that the working party could work on a briefing paper so that we could go to a consultancy so that they could give us a quote so that we knew what we were effectively talking about. In terms of proposal, you were thinking about one, wrapped up within that second recommendation, the final sentence where it says to effectively enable this, then maybe a proposal could start. The working party should compile an outline brief of points mostly likely to be successfully questioned to be agreed by SPC so that it is possible to gain realistic estimate as to what it would cost to successfully challenge a planning application in this instance.
Okay, thank you, John. Steve.
Yeah, on that second point, I'd just like to make, sorry, the second motion there, just like to make a minor amendment or propose a minor amendment that instead of in the last line or the 2 lines, instead of saying so that it is possible to gain a realistic estimate, I would change that to say and to obtain an estimate. You got that, John?
Yeah.
And then also in the later in that second from last line, penultimate line, we say what it would cost to successfully challenge a planning application. Well, I'm not sure we can ask that question. We can ask what it will cost to challenge it, but the word successfully is probably
okay.
Superfluous. So I'd like to propose that amendment.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. So all those in favour?
1, 2, 3, 4. That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much all for your contributions on that.
And now we need to close the motion, don't we? Or no, we don't do it. It's just unanimous. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Chair, David Barling's arrived. I don't know
Oh
if
yes,
it was-
David, I saw he'd arrived.
Take a report from him. I think he's got a residence thing to bring up, Godstall's Lane.
He has. He's gone off my screen.
No, I'm still here.
Ah, there you are. David, hello, welcome.
I've been listening with interest. Firstly, everybody, I completely remembered to join at 7:30, and then 7:30 came and went and I completely forgot to join. So I have no excuse whatsoever other than subsequently finding John's email and joining you a bit late. In terms of Godstall's Lane, which I do know about, I've been supporting a group of residents in Godstall's Lane who have made themselves, I think, a community highway application to put yellow lines down the neck of Godstall's Lane. The reason for this is that they are having great difficulty in getting large vehicles down there because of parked cars. In particular, the dust carts can't get down there if the neck of the road is obstructed. So I've been working with, in particular, as you know, Jill Munsey, who's spearheaded this, and Steve Douglas, who's the Deputy Highway Manager. I've put them together, and that is now a work in progress. Now, it's got a little bit more complicated in that a gentleman from the corner of Hills Road has actually asked if they can have a small length of yellow line immediately adjacent to the run up to from Hills Road from the main road. And this is because he's worried that there'll be overflow parking that will come around there and block that road. And that's a fair point. So again, I've got to speak to Jill about this, but I'm seeing with Steve whether it's possible to amend the application to just add in that little, it's about 20 metres of yellow line as well on the adjoining road. So basically, I'm hoping very much the Parish Council will support this. And that's about it, Chris. If I can answer any questions, I will happily do so.
Oh, thank you, David. Steve.
Firstly, David, next time, can we have a much more creative excuse? So on the yellow lines, I understand the residents' frustrations, but firstly, isn't there already legislation about parking such you are restricting access to a public highway? I'm just a little concerned that this will be the thin end of the wedge and we'll end up with somebody will be painting the town yellow.
Well, I'd never want to paint the town yellow in any sense of the word, Steve. The reality of the situation is that if there is no yellow lines there, there's really nothing to warn anybody not to park there. And that's the whole problem. I mean, this has come from the residents themselves. And I think personally, I would support it and I would encourage you to do as well. You know, at least then if there's a yellow line there, there is some degree of enforcement that can be offered. Otherwise, wardens just won't take any notice.
No, I agree.
Okay. Thank you. Sarah.
Sorry. I agree with the Godstall Lane, what Jill Munsey's been asking for. I do agree with the yellow lines there, but I take what I agree with what Councillor Northern has actually said. If something comes in which means that parking can't be there, so it's going to be, you know, outside someone else's house, I think it is the thin end of the, when I wouldn't like to see, I'm happy for the Godstall Lane to have their yellow lines, but I do feel that on the, do you mean on the corner of Hills Road and
Newham Lane?
Where,
yeah, that's where I mean.
Yeah, see, I mean, I'll declare an interest. I live in Newham Lane and I'm okay. I've got a lot of parking. I've got a very wide drive, but I do feel that some of the other residents in Newham Lane are going to think, well, they're no longer parking on that corner going up to Hills Road. So where are they going to park? They're going to park in Newham Lane, which already has a lot of problems with parking issues, because obviously we have a lot of people who visit the allotments. Quite often they come and they park, and it is for just a couple of hours. But you also have an awful lot of, you know, you get the dog walkers, they come and park for quite some time, and then all the people who thankfully like to use the MPF, you know, a lot of them actually park as well. So I think that Hills Road, unfortunately, should take its share of parking. I mean, at the moment, a lot of people cannot park up Chandler's Way. I'm sure they would like, you know, yellow lines, because quite often people aren't very considerate how they park up Chandler's Way as well. We also have a lot of people parking and then they shoot up to the lower horseshoe or down to the town because they don't want to pay the car parking fees. So I wouldn't support the additional yellow lines on Hills Road. And I would actually, you know, if residents are feeling that they really are having so much of a problem with people parking where they shouldn't, perhaps, you know, we probably would never happen. But I do feel that the introduction of car parking charges has caused an awful lot of problems for residents, particularly people who live places like Breach Close. You know, they've got all this on-road parking which previously would have been in the car park.
I'm ambivalent about the Hills Road one. This has come from the gentleman who lives on the corner. It hasn't come from anybody else. The Godstall's Lane one has come from a group of residents. If the parish council was so minded, I would invite you then to support Godstall's Lane, but put a footnote that you wouldn't support Hills Road. And frankly, I'll take that back to the resident and report that. It hasn't gone any further in terms of actually amending the application, because I wanted to speak with you guys first before I communicated with Jill Munsey, and I haven't actually approached Jill yet because I don't know how she'd feel about it.
Thank you, David. Are there any more questions? So, Tim.
No, Chair, I'm just conscious that we've got 20 minutes to go, or less than that. I just feel we should push on with the
motion.
Yeah, with the motion.
Okay. Can I just clarify that it's the widening of Godstall's Lane, isn't it, that we're supporting, not?
No, it's the narrowing. It's the narrow ends. There's like a sort of funnel, isn't there? And because there's no yellow lines there at the moment, people park in that neck, call it a neck. It's not really narrowing or widening anything. It's just making sure the neck is clear.
Right.
Well, I sort of, on the briefing note, it
says widen the road. But
it actually says to widen the road, yeah.
Yes, it isn't. It isn't a physical widening, I don't think.
No, put some yellow lines down.
Oh, okay. So the yellow lines are a means of
well, effectively that widens it, if you see what I mean.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah.
I mean, you've made me think now. John, is there a physical widening as well?
Yes, I believe there is actually. Not very much, but on the side of the road that was pictured, I believe that to be the case, that they were looking to move that a little bit also.
Yes, it's got for the removal of the grass verge and the widening of the road surface.
Yeah.
Which is why it needs a community highway scheme, because there's some physical groundworks involved. So yeah, it's a widening in both senses.
Steve.
So in the light of that new information, that it's actually a physical widening, are we sure we need these yellow lines? I really am concerned about this. As I said earlier, to coin the same phrase, that it's the thin end of the wedge.
Actually, in one of these emails from Sarah, who's at West Sussex, I suppose. He said he'd spoken. She had spoken to you, David, about possible highways improvements, and you don't support the extension of double lines. As it
well, I'm not sure. I'm getting myself confused now. I'm not sure that I did say that.
Okay. She just goes on.
I certainly want to help the residents. That I do want to do.
Oh yeah. Instead, you suggested, she says, that they make an application under the highway scheme for the removal of the grass verge and widening of the road surface.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm almost using my own words now, aren't I? I think that it's probable that, I mean, Steve's got a concern. I've always had this concern. If I go back 8 years, the very first thing I had to deal with was an application by my predecessor to put yellow lines up Newham Lane, which was applied for by one person. And then we got loads and loads of objections from residents up Newham Lane. And the application wasn't approved by the CLC. That was the very first thing I dealt with, which bears out something Sarah said a while ago. I think it might still need yellow lining, but I'm happy to take this back, actually. I think the best thing to do would be if I take it back, talk it over with Steve Douglas, and just say that the parish council had reservations about the yellow lines, but did support the physical widening.
Yeah, I think
would that be a way to deal with it?
I think that might be a good way to deal with it, because it would be more of a permanent solution, I think.
Well, if that's the will of the parish council, then I will take it back and report that, and then I can come back to you.
Okay, I'm not sure we are all agreed on that at the moment. Simon, you had your hand up, and then Gary.
I mean, I was going to say, I wouldn't support yellow lines, but I'd certainly support the widening of Godstall's Lane. I mean, I think if you were to put yellow lines down there, the other thing you're also going to do is create more of a chicane down there. I'm regularly driving up and down Newham Lane, and more often than not, you always get that one person that has to park on the opposite side of the road to everyone else, which again causes problems. I think allowing them to park down the side street is a good thing. Widen the road, yeah, go for it.
Thank you, Simon. Gary, did you want to say something?
Correct, David. It wasn't Newham Lane, it was Newham Close that you tried the yellow lines on.
Yeah, it was. It probably was. It was so many. It was 8 years ago.
Yeah, I remember it.
Okay. Well, is there a feeling amongst councillors to support the widening of Godstall's Lane? Got
yeah, I support it.
Steve.
I think there's been too much confusion over this really to make a decision. I would propose, as David offered, I would propose that it's taken back and clarified before we can make a decision.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, that sounds good.
There's no urgency about it, because these things take a while to gestate, as you know.
Yep.
Okay.
So
thank-
I'll email Steve Douglas in the morning to summarise this conversation, and we'll go from there. And I will also tell the resident in Hills Road that this did not find favour with the parish council, who wouldn't support it.
Okay, thank you, David.
I'm happy to add that into my proposal, the Hills Road statement, if there's a seconder.
I'll second that.
Sarah had her hand up. Did you want to quickly say?
I was just going to say, Sarah Hunter, who's the resources manager, she actually says that her colleagues would support the removal of the grass verge and the widen of the road surface. She doesn't make any mention of yellow lines, and we all know that we could put yellow lines up Godstall Lane, but chances are people would ignore them. It's much better to actually remove the grass verge, which makes the road wider.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Can somebody, Steve, can you remind me of your
We as per David's offer, that we acknowledge this will be taken back by David for clarification and brought to a future meeting, but that we have registered, how do I say this, that
Concern.
we did not favour the Hills Road request.
Okay.
I've got the flavour of the meeting anyway, so.
I'll second that, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Can we take a quick vote? All those in favour?
Unanimous, thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. I think it just leaves me to thank you for, I believe this is your last meeting with us. And
It is, and then I'm going to escape.
Oh,
We
well,
shall miss you, David.
on
Yeah.
behalf of all of us, I'd just like to thank you for your 8 years of support to Steyning Parish Council as a West Sussex County Councillor. You've done a great job, and I know from personal experience that whenever the Mouse Lane contingent have called you out, you've always been there and very supportive to us. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Very kind of you, colleagues. I have enjoyed
well.
working with you. It's been a pleasure. It's been a long haul. Sometimes it's been a bit tortuous, you might say, but generally speaking, we really work together as a team. And I just hope whoever is my successor will enjoy a good relationship with you guys as well. And I hope be active. I'm leaving reluctantly, as it were, but I've went to Brighton, as you know. Now I'm back in Wynham, and I feel it's time for someone else, perhaps a bit younger than me, to have a crack at this. So we shall see what the 6th of May brings.
Yes, we will indeed. Could be interesting.
Thank you, David. Well, we
Thank
give
you.
you all
Thanks,
our
David.
messages. Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, David. Bye-bye.
All right, I'll say cheerio.
Thanks. Okay, looks like we've got about 6 minutes now.
Should we do the motion, Chair?
Pardon?
Should we do the motion
We
at
did
13?
do the motion, I think, didn't we? We did do it.
13.1, Chair.
13.1.
No, we haven't done it.
Oh, 13.1. Oh no, we didn't. We didn't.
The FOIs, yeah.
No, I was looking at the minutes that we had to receive. Okay. So 13.1, the motion was that the following provision in the scheme of delegation be amended as shown in italics. So dealing with all FOI, SAR requests as per the FOI policy and report these at its next meeting to F&GP and to copy in all relevant committee members or full council members if the matter so relates, simultaneously with the answer being sent. Yes, I was going to ask Paul if he wanted to speak to this, but he's not here. So, John, I think you don't. Tim?
No, I was only going to suggest that, Chair, if I may, through you, that John, whether he feels that he can do this simultaneously with the response being sent. So, because this might take some time. But anyway, just wonder whether John had a comment on it.
John?
Well, thank you. Thank you. It does rather add another layer of administrative restraint, as it were, on something that seemed to be working, albeit not necessarily as speedy as some would hope. This went back to an FOI that came in about a week and a half before an F&GP meeting, and because of that, it wasn't relayed to that particular meeting, so it was delayed for a month because it's meant to be reported to F&GP. So that's, I think, where it stemmed from, if I could speak on Paul's behalf. Frankly, I thought that scheme of delegation covers it, and that we were doing it as we should be doing via the FOI policy. So that's where my thinking is at the moment. I didn't think it was necessary.
Tim?
Can I just suggest, Chair, that in view of what John said, is that we take that under advisement and put this to working practices to come back at a future date as to whether this is an acceptable policy for John.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Steve?
Well, first of all, I think we're debating something that we haven't actually had a proposal tabled, strictly speaking. But I'm not sure that we need to kick this into the long grass with the working party. I think I totally agree with John. I think this appears to micromanage or attempt to micromanage the situation. And actually, if members look down the scheme of delegation in the context of what we add here, if we add this to this one, we're pretty much going to have to add it to a lot of the others. So I would definitely be against this. I think maybe we just bring it to another future full council meeting. I'm not sure we need to waste a working party time with it.
Well, we can change it now if we want to.
I think I'm minded to do, Steve, as you ask, and bring it to a future council meeting. If you don't feel, and maybe we can consider again whether it needs to go to working practices. I'm quite anxious before we have to close the meeting to get on to Russell's question about gauging our support for this summer barbecue. So I don't want to finish the meeting before we get a feeling for this. So can I make a proposal that we defer this to another full council meeting and decide?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Steve. All those in favour?
Unanimous, thank you.
Thank you. So have you managed to read the very last minute paper from email from Russell about a barbecue to be organised in July, a summer barbecue on the MPF, and approaching us as a matter of courtesy because it's our responsibility, the MPF, and they've got people to supply drinks, barbecues, meat and ice creams. And just to get our feeling of whether we support this, Steve.
In view of the time we've got, limited time, I'd like to propose that we agree the provisional date and in principle subject to the details being confirmed at a later time.
Okay, do I have a second for that? Deborah?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you, Deborah. All those in favour?
Sorry,
Yep.
It's not on the agenda, just to remind you.
No, correct. Yeah, John, you did remind me. And
yeah.
This is just to gauge our support for it. We can't actually formally vote on it tonight, but it's to gauge the support so Russell knows how we feel about
Yep.
it. Can I just have hands up for those who would support this venture? Lovely, thank you. I think that's most of us.
It's not a formal resolution.
This is not a formal vote, formal resolution, no, not at all. But I hope that.
Yeah.
I hope that.
I was just going to extend because I didn't read it, the paper.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Well, we'll come back to this. As I say, it's not a formal vote, but just to gauge whether we are in support of it. Very quickly, because I think I've got to end the meeting now, Sarah.
I was just going to say, we have again cherry picked when we will talk about something that's on the agenda and when we talk about something which isn't on the agenda. And we did have item 14.1, which was the Great British Spring Clean, which we've now missed.
Well, we haven't missed,
which
if we
was
do it
actually
quickly.
on the agenda. Well,
It
we're
will-
out of time, Councillor Lloyd.
I know, but
Oh.
we'll put it on our website, so it's not going to be lost. Okay, can I thank you one and all for your contribution and for helping the meeting go almost to conclusion, but not quite.
Thank you, Chair.
Many thanks.
One of the best, most effective meetings we've had for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great stuff.
Well
Thanks
done,
very
Chair.
much, Chair. Well done, everyone.
Thank you.
Very good.
Right,
Chris.
bye-bye.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
18 minutes and about 11 seconds, John.
Yeah, I know. It was good. Though.
Bye.